You're listening to the Comic Crusaders Podcast. I am your host, Al Mega, CEO of Comic Crusaders and Undercover Capes. In this show, I'm sitting down with creators from all walks of life to talk about inspiration, process, the lessons they've learned, and a whole lot more. What up, mi gente? It's your boy Al Mega. Welcome to a brand new Comic Crusaders podcast. And today, folks, we got a dope creative mind right here. I mean, here's a man that's after my heart, apparently. It's tech, it's comics, it's all of that goodness. He's creating this dope universe that you guys must be aware of as nerds. I'm telling you, homie is bringing us the goodness and that greatness that we're going to love. He is a founder, a president, a visionary top 100 crypto founder, the one, the only, the mighty, the forward-thinking Geoff McCabe. Wepa, how you doing?
Wow, I have never had an introduction like that. That was fantastic. Thank you.
Are you ready? You ready, kiddo? Let's get it done, bro, because you are a visionary. You're getting it done. You're bringing comics to the realm of tech in a whole different way. And you know, I love comics. I love technology. I am a technophile. I love this stuff. So, you know, thank you first for taking time out of your busy schedule as you're building this mighty universe to even chat with us today.
No, this is really exciting for me because I've been doing lots of podcasts, lots of interviews, but usually it's people that are interested in NFTs, not people that are interested in comics and stories. And I don't really care about NFTs. To me, it's just a technology that allows us to tell stories and build this universe and these characters. So I'm really excited to have somebody that actually cares about the stories and not just speculating on NFTs like it's a casino.
Yeah. You know what? I'm not a gambling man, and that's why. So I'm really going to be digging this because, again, you are building something dope. And here we go. Yusuf, thank you for tuning in, checking it out. He's giving you a shout out, calling you the fireman. There we go. So, a little bit about yourself, Geoff, because this is Comic Crusaders Podcast. We're here because they get an origin story. So, where you OG from?
Well, so I'm 54 years old. I grew up in Seattle. I got into comic books early on with, like a lot of kids did, reading Archie's, Betty and Veronica, Richie Rich. I love Scrooge McDuck. Scrooge McDuck was one of my favorites. And at some point, somebody gave me some X-Men comics. And this is in the 80s, and they were Chris Claremont X-Men, like their early ones that ended up getting made into the movies later. And they completely changed my life, like absolutely and totally changed my life because they were so beautifully well written. And I remember at the time being really sad and talking to my friends about it. And we would lament about the fact that when we were adults, we would no longer be allowed to read comic books anymore. And that's literally the word that we used, allowed, like as if there was a law against it. Like comics were only for kids at that time. But the stories were so good and they were so profound. And what happened was that our generation took comic books with us. We took them into college. I went to college, people were still reading them. It's like, oh, well, I guess I can read these things for a few years more. But the stories just kept going up. The quality, the subject matter.
May I ask you, Geoff, while you were growing up, though, and finding this whole new world, did you have anyone in your life that was also a fanatic, whether they were friends or within the family, or you were a lone wolf in your geekdom?
I was a lone wolf, although I had like a weird neighbor that had like a whole room full of comic books. And I would go to his house.
A weird neighbor.
He was a 50-year-old kid, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he had his house.
And now you're the 50-year-old kid.
Exactly. But now it's more normal. All my friends have comics and toys and stuff. It's more normal to be a nerd. But at that time, being a nerd was like really nerdy. Like people didn't like you. There was no girls playing video games. There was no girls that read comics. There was no cosplay, none of this stuff. And the world changed, and it was my generation that really changed it. We took comic books and the stories and the characters with us, and it's just never stopped. What I've seen happen, though, is that Marvel and DC especially have really changed the way they're doing things. They're really alienating and annoying their fans, not paying attention to their fan base. And manga is kind of coming in to fill the void, telling stories in different ways. And there's never been an opportunity like now, because for decades there's like a stranglehold on the comic book world by Marvel, DC. You had to choose Marvel or DC, and that's all you had, right? Image came along,
and whatnot.
but it's been very, very hard for anybody to break in. And one of the reasons is because all the money is not made in comics. It's made in all the merchandise, in the movies, in the Netflix shows. There's a couple of comic book companies that went out of business recently. Well, they went bankrupt. And if you look at their bankruptcy statements, you'll see that 95 to 99% of the money they owe is not to like comic book artists and writers. It's to television producers, anything to do with anything but comics, right? It's all the other stuff. That's how you make money. So basically, how do you get big enough to be able to get enough fans for them to make your idea, and you take your characters and make it into a movie? And I saw an opportunity basically to do that with blockchain, with NFTs, and with Web3, right? To find a way to be able to make it so that people can launch comic books in a digital fashion and make them collectible the same way, and then find a niche. Like if you do some weird comic that you think is amazing and you love these characters and you love the story, even if only 1 in 1,000 people in the world likes what you're doing, 1 in 1,000 people is still 8 million people. There's still a gigantic market for what you're doing. And if you're passionate about something, there's going to be 8 million people out there or more that are probably going to be passionate about that too. That's what Web3 entertainment is. That's the promise of it, that people around the world who love comics, they love, manga, they love all this stuff worldwide. The promise of Web3 is being able to tap into that market. And so what we've been trying to do is create, over the last 3 years, I spent $2 million for my own money building a technology stack that allows for that to happen. So people can own the comic books, they can collect them, they can buy them, they can trade them, and do it all right within WhatsApp, right within Discord, within Signal, Telegram, right within different chat apps. And you don't even have to download an app. It's not like Veve and Marvel where you have to do everything within their closed universe. This is an open system where you can mint your own comic books onto the blockchain using nothing but WhatsApp and a credit card and sell to a global market. It's really unique what we've done. And as part of that, I've created our own comic book universe, our own characters, so we can use them as a demo so people can see all this technology and see what you can do with it. Our comic books are done with HTML5. They're not JPEGs. Like there's a few other people doing like blockchain comics. They're just a series of JPEGs, right? It's not much different than the Bored Apes, except there's a row of them, right? But our pages are actually built out of hundreds of little pieces of art that are put together like a website is, which makes them interactive. They're animated. You can click on stuff to find Easter eggs. You could build a store in. You can have sound and music. There's so much that you can do with it. And so we just released our first demo of this, which I apologize. I should have sent you one before this so you could see it and talk about it, because you'd be saying, wow, this is really cool. You'd be able to show it today.
You know what we could do?
Back on. We can talk about it.
Jeff, I don't want you to feel so bad, because we do have something, a little taste, a little tease, and then we're going to start dipping into this whole universe. But check this out, folks. We got a little something with tease, My God, that looks sexy, man. The growl on that was hot, yo. Let me tell you.
Yeah. So what? If you're paying, if you're paying attention to the detail there, you'll notice that the comics are moving, that they're alive. We're not trying to create anime here. We're just trying to bring the comics to life a little bit. You know, the characters can breathe, they blink, the fire actually flickers. Just little visual tricks. They're all done with HTML5 so that the comics just are more competitive. I mean, one of the problems is that the younger generation is not interested in comics. You know, everybody, all the kids love manga, but not many are. They love anime, but they're not all getting into manga. And it's going to be we need to find a way to bring in the next generation of actual collectors. So in order to do that, we need to make it digital, which is what the NFT technology does, making things scarce. And the way we've done it, the supply will be constantly going down through what we call forging. But the other part is we wanted to bring them to life. We want kids who are used to being able to interact with stuff. Like even with TikTok, they're going from video to video very quickly. They're choosing where to go. They're interacting with it, and that interactivity is really important. A comic book takes. It's something that when I was a kid, you didn't have many options. Literally, at the time I got into comic books, there was 3 channels on TV that you could choose from, and most of the time there was nothing good. So there was a couple hours a day where they might have some cartoons or something. So you didn't have many options. Right now, there's a zillion options. You can go in Minecraft and find 1,000 options. You can go on Roblox and find 1,000,000 different options to do. So how are we going to compete with that to get the next generation of collectors in? So I wanted to make the comic books in a different way than just JPEGs, so that they were slightly moving, they would be more enticing to kids, and they could be interactive. So, for example, we're doing a kids comic book where it's like a pop-up book. Remember pop-up books? They probably still make them. But the idea is that it's what we call a bedtime comic, and the parents can read it with their kids. It teaches them reading, and it's collectible, it's scarce, and if you click on the dragon will shoot fire, or it'll flap its wings, or it'll make a sound, or it'll talk to you, and there's all these Easter eggs that kids can find. And so it's this whole new way of doing storytelling. That's for kids. So like for adults, like the one you just saw, most of the collectors, they're not really interested in all this stuff moving. They're not trying to play a game. They want to follow the story, right? So that's why we had this very minimal animation. We don't want too much going on because we want it to feel like a comic book, only just more alive.
And talk about this universe. I mean, look at this right here. They look pretty cool. Who's the artist? What's popping? I mean, look at them. Wepa, digging it.
All right. So as I was mentioning earlier, it's extremely difficult to compete with Marvel and DC because collectors grew up with these characters. Like for people like me, Superman, Batman, the X-Men, these are like family members to me. They're like pets. You put them in the same category as like a treasured pet, like the family dog. Like when people mess with your characters, if the story's not told right, you get really mad, And so this is like deeply important to us. So it's very difficult to break away from Marvel and DC because you don't know who these characters are. So our hack to get away to compete with them was to use characters that are very famous in history from different cultures. So in our story, we have all these famous warriors from around the world. These are all based on real people that actually lived, that lived at one time, and they're usually known and beloved characters from within history. For example, the Nakano on the bottom left there, you see the female samurai. Our character's name.
I'm gonna make it easier for you. Boom. We can start from there.
Well,
look,
that's
breakdowns.
Jiang is based on a famous pirate. She was a Chinese pirate that lived about 200 years ago. She was the most successful pirate in world history. She had 70,000 sailors and 200 ships, and she defeated the Chinese Imperial Navy at one point. She was finally captured by the Portuguese and given to the emperor. This is a true story, I'm telling you right now. And the emperor was impressed with her. He made her an admiral in his fleet. And so we took her character and we made our own version using her birth name. She was actually a prostitute. She started out as a prostitute and became one of the most powerful people in the world. So she's a character who's known in China, but is not known outside of China. So we took this character, We made a kind of our own version. We cherry picked some of the most fun parts, but we know that everybody in China will appreciate this character. So it gives us an audience of people that want to see this character interacting with, say, there's a famous gladiator. If you go back to the last one, this gladiator character is named Flamma, and he was right. If you look at so Flamma was a famous gladiator. He was from Syria, but he competed in Rome. There he is.
Oh, yeah.
And he was the only gladiator that he refused. He was a slave, and he refused his freedom 4 times. He was offered by the Emperor of Rome his freedom for his greatness in winning, which is tradition there. If you won in a spectacular way, they would offer you your freedom. But he refused freedom because he wanted to keep fighting. He loved to be a star.
Oh man, the bloodlust, huh?
There's like get in Rome that are ancient coins that have his face on it. So he's this famous person from another famous person from history. All the characters are based on famous people from history. So in this way, it's a hack where we get people that people are somewhat familiar with. This is based on the like most famous samurai and sword fighter in Japanese history. He's completely an icon within Japan. There's movies about him. There's comics about him. We based it roughly on the same character. He has the same family name, Miyamoto, but we gave him a different first name, and he lives in slightly different time. But we took a lot of the cool stuff about him, how he was he died in old age after writing the book. And the real one wrote the Book of the 5 Rings, where he basically taught people how to fight better than ever before. And he invented a two katana fighting technique that was across Japan after this. And he's this incredible historical figure. Well, we took our own version, and he's in the story now with the gladiator and all these other famous people. So Bonnie Oakland is based on Annie Oakley, who is a famous American person. And she was part of a circus, and she was never a real warrior, but she was at the time the best rifle shooter and maybe the best pistol shooter in the whole world. All she did was, they would throw up coins in the air. She could shoot them out of the air from 20 paces and this kind of thing. In our story, she gets put in this situation with all these warriors, and she's never actually been in a fight before, but she's the best shot that's ever lived, basically. So in her actual story, we have a backstory for each one. In her backstory, she's become a pacifist because she was, as a young child, grew up with the Comanches, the Native American tribe called the Comanches, and she witnessed some very horrible things. So she basically gave up violence. But she's put in this situation. In our story, it's kind of a Groundhog Day, where all these famous warriors from history find themselves on this beach, and they wake up. The last thing they remember is dying, and they basically then get attacked by all these monsters, and they get killed over and over and over. Every day they wake up, and they have to do the same thing over and over again, and they're trying to figure out a way out. They're trying to figure out where they are, what's going on. Some of them think they're in heaven, like Flamma, because he gets to fight all. Some of them think they're in heaven. They all think different things, right? And so that's there's this mystery that they have to unravel.
Man, you killing me every day, and that's heaven. Like, dude, are you nuts?
So Nakano, she was an Onamusha. She was one of the last living sort of samurai. They didn't call women samurai; they call them Onamusha. But she's based on a real person who actually died in combat in the 1800s. We set her a little bit earlier, and her name is Nakano Taka, and we gave her a different backstory, but she has a very similar death story to the real Nakano. There's statues of her in Japan, and she's very well known in Japan, but she's not known outside of Japan. So we're basically bringing these famous characters who are iconic in their own countries and their own cultures and bringing them to the world, pitting them against other characters from world history. And we used to have, the idea kind of came from, we used to talk about like who would win in a fight, a samurai versus a Viking. We would talk about these different things, and the samurai is well trained, and then we say, yeah, but the Vikings can, have fought all the time, or among all different types of people, and they can withstand pain, and they're really big, So we would argue, you know, kids, we would talk about Superman versus the Hulk, and we would talk about real characters from history, different types of warriors. As kids, we love to talk about this stuff. So I wanted to write a story where this actually happened.
Wait, I gotta ask now. Who would win? A Viking or samurai?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Who would win, a Viking or samurai?
Well, I have to find out. One of the characters is probably going to be based on Ragnar. Everybody knows him from the Vikings TV show, and so he's not one of the main characters right now. But we'll be bringing in more characters as the show develops. Also, based on what the fans like. If we like, for example, we started having a lot of fans from the Philippines, so we're now adding a character from the Philippines. We're adding a character from India because we had a lot of fans from India. So we're doing a lot of things like this based on trying to make the fans happy. And at the same time, it's very fun for me because I love learning about different cultures. So we're doing a lot of research, trying to find out like what weapons do they use, and finding all this really cool stuff about combat and about different cultures, and trying to be as authentic as we can with our small team. I'm sure we'll offend a few people because people are always offended, but we're doing our best to make it as authentic as possible, to the extent that we can, because it's important to me, and I love history, so that's just an important part of it. I think it'll be more fun for people, and hopefully you won't get too much pushback. Like this guy Koraka, he's based on a legendary Maori warrior who was supposedly 2 times as tall as an average man. What? Which would make him 12 feet tall. We've made him 8 feet tall, and he's sort of like the biggest, strongest guy that's ever lived in world history. And he finds himself among these heroes. Now, he's based on a legend. He was not necessarily a real person, but they think that he probably was based on a real person, because it wasn't when he supposedly lived. The British that first went to New Zealand and talked to the Maoris, he had not died that long before. So I think it was 50, 80 years before. So they think he might have been actually real. So we basically recreated a version of him that lived a little bit later. And he's a really great character. He's a giant warrior, but he's also extremely wise and kind of a gentle giant.
And look at these pages. Look at that.
Yeah, that's Xiang. So that's actually drawn by D.G. Franchen, who has done Marvel, Spider-Man, and X-Men before. So we've really tried to hire the very best people. We've quite a few people that have DC and Marvel credentials, and they love what we're doing. They're becoming very interested in NFTs. Part of what we're doing, it's really the technology, right? We want to create an entire technology universe that's part of this universe of the characters, where other people can participate in different ways. And to do that, we need to really create something that artists love, something that rewards artists and lets them do what they really want to do. We just hired an artist from Costa Rica, and she was telling me how she really doesn't like the social media part. Like, she wants to draw. She does not want to spend her time doing Twitter and Instagram and all this kind of stuff. So one of the things we want to be able to offer to different artists is a way to streamline that, make it really easy for them, so they can focus on the storytelling and the drawing and the stuff they're passionate about. Because the really good ones, the really good people in this industry, they're nuts. I mean, they love what they're doing, and that's all they want to do. She works 7 days a week, she said, because she just loves drawing so much. She gets up in the first thing in the morning, she grabs a pad, and she starts drawing. For her, she does not want to spend her time doing social media. And in today's world, a lot of the people that are winning and that are getting ahead are the people that are not actually creating stuff so much as they're really good at marketing themselves and talking all the time.
Absolutely.
And it's creating a very strange situation, right? Mm-hmm. So this is Xiang. This is Hillary. She lives in Spain. She's a lingerie model. She's actually Costa Rican, but she lives in Spain modeling there, and she does cosplay for us. She's Costa Rican, but the character she's playing is Chinese, but nobody cares. We want everybody to be involved and do whatever character they want to do.
Of course. Dope cosplay, by the way. So shout out.
Yeah, the cosplay part is something that people are really excited about. We have our own team, and we really want to provide a lot of resources to people to be able to cosplay our characters. And so we're trying to find a lot of resources for them. How do you get a good costume made and all of this kind of stuff? You know, a lot of it involves like 3D printing. So eventually we'll be making it easy for people to cosplay our characters by giving them 3D stuff that they can print out at home, or with people from Fiverr can print out stuff for you. And you can make stuff like the authentic armor, or the helmet, or whatever, because we'll provide the resources for that.
Oh man! So see, folks. First off, before we move forward, check it out, folks. On the screen is everywhere you can follow them, and that's why I've been just showing the LightningWorks 7, because homie was smart enough to lock it down. So on every social platform, just look for LightningWorks 7. The link's also below, so click away. Make sure you support this awesome creative project here. This is the wave of the future, folks. I mean, you gotta go with it. You gotta grow with it. Stop fighting it. Stop. Everybody hails digital comics to be the doom of comics. Yeah, nowadays everybody loves digital comics. So you see how it goes, folks. Just take it easy.
Yeah, I really
easy.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. The problem is that a lot of people have seen all this Bored Apes and all this NFT stuff, and they don't trust it for good reason. Just remember that NFTs are technology. They're used for real estate. They're used for all kinds of stuff. Bored Apes and all that stuff is not NFTs. They're just using a technology. Comic books are a really good use case for this technology, because we can make them actually collectible. And we can basically print, it's called minting, a certain number of them. That's all there will ever be in that collection. And so they're scarce, just like regular comic books. The way we're doing it is, if you collect, we have different tiers, like common, uncommon, up to legendary or divine.
Man,
each tier is more scarce.
As the NFC pro, when you say minting, so how protected is minting?
Well, so it's done.
That's real first print, if you will.
Well, the way that blockchain works is basically we launch a smart contract. It's called a smart contract because nobody can manipulate this contract, right? If we say there's only going to be 1,000 that are going to be minted, that's all that can be minted. And anybody that goes and pays some money can mint a comic. When it hits 1,000, that's it. It's done. That if somebody wants to create more, they'd have to create another contract, and everybody would know that it was a second printing. So imagine like you're doing comic books, they could go and print Avengers #1 again, but everybody would know it wasn't authentic because there's going to be differences. It's the same thing with blockchain. That's what blockchain does. So if we say there's only going to be 1,000 or whatever the smart contract is cut off, that's all there's going to be. There's different tiers. So there's common through uncommon, rare, legendary. Each one is more scarce. There may be like 1,000 commons, 300 uncommon, 100 rare, and it goes up like that. So when it's kind of like getting baseball cards or something, where when you buy the comic, when you mint it, you don't know what it is. You basically get it unrevealed. Then you reveal what it is, and you get to see whether it's a rare one or a less rare one. So collectors like this kind of thing. What we've done is introduce something called forging, where if you have, say, 3 commons, you can basically convert them into one of something higher, a higher tier, like an uncommon through a legendary. What that does is that it's reducing the supply. So we may start with 1,000, but through forging, the supply is going to go down and down and down and down and down and down, like regular comics. Because Marvel may print 20,000 of a comic book, but over time they get lost. The dog eats it. People spill water on it. There's a scarcity, and so that creates real value. That can't be done without NFTs. Nobody trusts Marvel or DC or somebody to keep your comic books in a database, and they get to tell you what you own, because there could be a blip in the system and it just disappears. Your comics could disappear, or they decide that they don't like you, or something like this. With blockchain, anybody can participate. It's completely uncensorable, and once these things are made, no one can take your ownership away from you, because you don't have to ask a central authority such as Marvel or DC or Coinbase or anybody for permission to own or read, because everything's based on decentralized application. This is what Web3 is. The data is stored in something called IPFS, which is nodes. People at their computers at home are running IPFS nodes. People in universities all over the world, people are storing all this data for free for everybody else, so people can store stuff there, and you don't have to go to Amazon or Microsoft or anybody to ask for your data, where they could just cut you off. It's all done in such a way that it's unhackable and nobody can censor it. And people like that. People like it that they actually get to own stuff. Like when you own a comic book, you own it. You're holding it in your hands. It's in your house, right? So NFTs and IPFS and this stuff makes it so that's digital, and that's what's so cool about it. That's why it really is the wave of the future. But people right now, a lot of people are very skeptical about NFTs and about sort of digital technology. What we're trying to do is make our comic books digital, but feel like real comic books and have all the same characteristics, so that we can migrate all these collectors over. We don't expect people to give up paper comics, but hopefully people will do both. It'll be something new and fun, and you'll be able to present these animated, beautiful comic book covers on your wall, like life size, on a digital monitor, and they're going to be incredible art for your house as well.
I absolutely appreciate the collectivity part of it, because again, like you said, every comic book has the print one, so why not a comic in this format have a digital print run that, and then gives it its value, because that's why these comics have its value on nowadays, because it has a run. They didn't go on limitedly like a comicsology. You can always pick up that book no matter what. That's a limitless PDF.
Yeah. So one of the things we may do, find it really hard to get the hardcore collectors in. Like, they just won't do digital, right? Well, we want them. I mean, these are my people, right? They say all these hardcore collectors that are like, we're all the same age. We grew up with the 80s and 90s Marvel and DC that made us fall in love with comic books. And if I can't get them in, what we will do is end up printing them. You'll buy a printed one, and it'll come with a QR code that'll be unique to that comic book. You can scan that QR code, and then you can get the digital version. Some people call this phygital, where it's physical and digital at the same time. So that way, maybe we can get them in, and they'll get both their print version and their digital version. If they don't want the digital one, they don't have to have it. That's fine. It just creates more scarcity in the digital realm. Eventually, people will come around, It remains to be seen how many younger people, whether you can really get the younger audiences collecting comic books. So one of the ways we're doing that is trying to connect our comic books directly with our video game. Like, if you own these comic books, you can go into our metaverse in our game. You can do special things. Like, our comic books have an Easter egg in them, where if you find it and click it in just the right place, it will drop a weapon into your wallet that you can use in our video game. And so it gives people a real reason to want to have these comic books. And if you still own that comic book and you own that weapon, well, you can sell the weapon on one of these global markets. But if you own both together, then the weapon maybe gets a +1 too. So we create these use cases for
You're killing me. I just thought about this. So the metaverse promotes weapon sales. Illegal weapons. So I got this gat right here from this comic. This is crazy. I love it. This sounds like so much fun. Yeah. How in the world did you even figure out this plan in your mind? You're a genius, bro.
Well, I've been working on it since 2017. Like I said, I've been saying $2.2 million for like a year. So it's probably up to $2.5, $2.6 million by now that I've been spending of my own money building all of this, making a lot of mistakes. We finally, I've been working on it since 2017. I haven't really spent a lot of like full time on it other than the last 2 years. Most of that money was spent in the last 2 years, but there's a lot going into it. It's not like these other NFT projects that are just, done in a month, and then they try to sell the stuff. This is something that's my life's work. I come from a family of, I was raised on sitting around the table, and my mom is a Pulitzer nominated poet. She loves writing. She loves story. She was a great storyteller. And she would always impress upon me the importance of storytelling in in culture, in the world, and in families, you know, and my family is full. I know hundreds of cool stories about pirate treasures and jaguars and shark attacks, all this crazy stuff from my family from going back generations that we've passed down in the family. And I've been told that my ancestors were phenomenally good storytellers, and they would have the whole room or the whole dinner table spellbound. You know, they used to have, you know, families of 10 people, right? That was like normal family size. And storytelling was very important. They didn't even have TV back then. So storytelling was incredibly important. It's still incredibly important, but not many people really are doing it. They don't understand that. They're getting their storytelling through other people, especially big corporations, telling them what to read and what to watch. And so what we're trying to do is create a technology stack that allows anybody in the world to become a storyteller, because everybody I talk to has some great story idea. I meet people all the time just at a bar. I'll talk to a bartender about like what I'm doing, and they're like, "Oh, you make comics? Oh, that's really cool. Well, I have this cool idea for this hero." And then you see their eyes, like in their face, and they become spellbound. They're so excited about this character that they've been dreaming up. But to them, it's out of reach to actually bring this character idea to the world. Like it never occurred to them that they could do anything with this, but they're fascinated with it. And so when I tell them, I say, look, we're building a platform where we're going to make it really easy for you to take your idea, and you're going to be able to hire a writer, you're going to be able to hire an artist, and make a team very easily of people around the world. You can make a comic book with your story, and you can sell it on a global market really easily with all these tools, right? And people just love the idea. I personally believe that there's going to be 1 million people making comic books in 10 years, in different forms. There'll be one-pagers, there'll be graphic novels, people that do it full time. There's things like webtoons where you're doing it day by day. There's so many new formats that are coming up, and we're trying to build the technology to make it so thousands or millions of people can tell stories and find the niche of fans that think that what they think is cool is great. And I know this is going to work because I have a 17-year-old daughter, and she told me this is like what kids want. Like kids love all these stories, but they want to create and they want to connect with people all around the world that love what they love. And that's what the metaverse is supposed to be. The metaverse is supposed to be this alternate world where you can go in and find your tribe of people that love what you love, and you can interact with them in this virtual world no matter what country they live in. And I have a lot of experience in metaverse because I'm also the founder of virtualrealitytimes.com. It's one of the top metaverse and VR news sites for the last 9 years. So we have more than 2,000 articles on metaverse. So that's something I'm very interested in, and we're going to be connecting our stories and our characters and all of this with different metaverses, especially one called Otherverse with a U, which I think will be the big bad boy on the block that's going to beat Facebook's Meta. It's so much better what they have than what Facebook has done. So everybody should pay attention to Otherverse.
Hey, you hear this, folks? I mean, he's giving you the tips. This
This
is
is
dope.
super.
I mean,
I've never heard of it, but it's going to be gigantic. Otherverse with a U, Otherverse.io. They're gonna drop a bomb on the whole motherverse or the whole metaverse space right now. It's incredible.
It's gonna make it the motherverse. They're gonna make it the motherverse. That's what's popping.
Yeah, exactly. That's actually a good word for it, motherverse.
The motherverse, baby. Take over. We gotta hashtag that, Geoff, real quick and own it. That's awesome. I love it. Geoff, yeah. Brother. I love what you're building here. Again, you hear folks, that whole mix of fandom, collectability, technology, comics, universe. I mean, what more can you ask for? Why would you hesitate? Embrace, baby. It's time. Don't sleep. This is the future, folks. We stop sleeping. Yo.
I'd like to be able to tell you one more thing because I think this is really cool and I think you'll appreciate it. One of the biggest problems and the reason that digital is not catching on is because most people are really passionate about their local comic book store. They like to go there. They like to connect with the nerds that work in there, that have set this up, that have people like you and me that have made this our life. We're so passionate about it. And how does that fit into the digital world? Both Marvel and DC are talking about cutting off printing because they don't make money and they don't care about the collectors. They only care about movies and merchandise, and they don't need comic books to do movies and merchandise. So how do you go digital? If how are you going to get it so these comic book stores can stay in business? So what we've developed is something we call the LightningWorks portal. Right now, there's about 1,000 of them, 700. No, maybe there's 777. I forget. 1,027. There's around 1,000 of them. If you own one of these, you're going to be able to become a distributor of all of our digital comic books in the future. So 2/3 approximately of our supply of our comic books will get distributed through the portal owners, who basically get them at half price and can either choose to mint them and keep them, or they can sell them. They can sign up their own subscribers. Like if you know how comic book stores work, right? So the idea is we started these portals. We sold them for $100. They're now costing about $640, I think is the cheapest one. So they've gone up 6 times in price. But the idea is if you own one of these, you're going to have the right to run a digital comic book store. And so, like if you're a comic book store owner, you'll be able to set up a screen on the wall or floor stand on your comic book store, and your clients will be able to come up and touch it, click it, and buy their digital comic books in your store, and then you'll get 50% of whatever they buy, just like doing digital, just like doing print. So we've really solved an incredibly important problem in the comic book world that will make it so that I hope we have 1,000 comic book stores around the world distributing for us and getting excited about what we're doing because they can participate in this. But it's even better than that, because if they sign up people who buy, the first time they buy from them, they become their customer for life. So even if they try to go around them and buy direct from us, they're basically tagged as one of their customers. So they're going to get
residual on whatever they get.
Yeah, they're going to continue to get paid. They're going to get royalties. And so this is the way we bring the comic book stores into the digital world, allowing them to participate. Rather than doing what Marvel and DC do. I mean, people just don't trust any of these big companies. It doesn't matter whether it's pharmaceuticals, the military industrial complex, or comic books. All of these things are owned by the same psychopaths that don't care about people, right? The psychopaths get to the top of every pyramid-shaped power structure, and they basically run the world. What blockchain and decentralization does is it puts that and distributes it out into thousands of nodes. So what we're looking at doing is basically creating like living nodes of comic book stores around the world that want to distribute comics digitally, and providing the technology for other people to do the same thing. And I've been screaming my head off trying to get comic book stores to like pay attention. You're like the first person that's doing like an interview. We reached out to like I think 107 of the top comic book influencers. None of them wanted to like do an interview. They don't even
embrace this. What is wrong with them? You are sleeping. I'll mega understand this. This is what it is.
I don't know. There's not many people. You're a visionary, right? And so you understand this. You like to do things first. You know, I know Dan Didio. He's the former head of DC Comics. He loves what we're doing, and he would be involved. He's doing a whole project with Frank Miller, like a top secret thing. So otherwise, he had said he'd be an advisor to the project. He loves it. He's visionary. He gets it. And there are people in the space, and it's just going to take time for people to discover it. But a lot of times, people just say, "Oh, it's NFTs. I don't want anything to do with that. That's Bored Apes," or they're just not interested. Most of the influencers, like you're different. Most of the influencers, all they want to talk about is how horrible Marvel and DC are. They should be spending at least half their time talking about what's good out there, and helping all the small creators succeed.
Who cares about what Marvel and DC doing? Let's worry about what the good guys are doing on the independent universe, bringing us the content we want to see. Because again, my logic is that again, if people want to see what they want, then step away from Marvel and DC, and the independent universe is full of everything you want, whether it's superhero story, on whatever theme you're on, they have it.
Yeah,
done.
I mean, I think part of it is,
it's
a big investment of time to like read enough about a character. You need to read like 10 issues or more to really fall in love and understand the lore and all this. That's a big investment of time. And then a lot of these small companies go out of business, or the creators get bored. That's why people love manga. These things go forever and they're never going away, and they never sell that character
up until really, right?
So,
Almost.
So the promise I'm making to our readers, to our fans, is I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to live to be, I'm 54. I'm going to live to be at least 100. So you're going to have 46 years of these characters, and the universe is growing. That if you invest the time with us to fall in love with these characters, we're not going to rug pull you and just move on to the next thing to make money. Because for me, it's not about making money. I have businesses that make money. I own a very successful yoga center where I make, $20,000 a month, more than I need to live. And that's how I fund this. I have other investments too. I have a real estate company. This is a passion project. It's what I want to do with my life. And I'm going to make sure that everything is the best quality and that the fans are getting what they want and what they deserve, because it's what I want to do. And you can tell probably from my passion at this that I really will do this. I've been doing it for.
I feel it.
Yeah, I mean, if you come to our website and see all the stuff we're doing, you're going to see 3D models. You're going to see working video games. You're going to see whole teams of cosplay girls. You're going to see so many different characters and cool stuff that we're doing, and we have so much stuff you haven't even seen yet that's coming. That's really cool. That we're doing.
So before we go, are you going to be doing any conventions? Are you touring at any point in time where we could see you and talk in person and shake your hand and get into and pick your brain?
Yeah, we actually did New York Comic Con 2 years ago. We were the first NFT company to ever do New York Comic Con, even before Marvel and DC. And they I'll tell you what happened. We went there. This is the middle of COVID. They came to us on the first day and they said, "We love you. We're going to put you front and center when you come back next year." The next day, they came and they kicked us out. They threw us out, made us take down the booth and threw us out of New York Comic Con. And the reason is because they said we weren't wearing our COVID masks. And I was there. My partner was there. Our team was there. We had a whole team. I flew from Costa Rica, and we were like, "What are you talking about? Like, there's nobody's wearing masks here." And like,
no one.
And they would only wear them when the staff are around, but everybody would just take them off. And they said, "Well, yeah, we know, but this woman made a huge stink on social media, and she said you guys are going to infect the whole place, and you're killing people, and she singled you out. So we're sorry, but we're going to have to make an example of you." So they kicked us out. They kicked us out on Friday, and of course Saturday and Sunday are the big days, right? Cost me $25,000. My partner, who had the booth with us, lost like $50,000. We were so mad. So I don't know if we'll go back. I think we probably will, but we're doing a Costa Rica Comic Con in a couple of months, and it's pretty big. It's 18,000 people that come to it in a small country. People are crazy about comics in Costa Rica. Everywhere you go, there's people wearing like Spider-Man, Green Lantern, every kind of obscure thing. They just love it here. And so Costa Rica is huge for this stuff. And so we're going to be there. We're also going to be doing, people should sign up. We're going to be giving away free comic books of our next comic to everybody who comes and asks for one, a free digital comic book. So if you want, maybe once that's ready, I can come back on or give you something.
Yes.
Tell everybody about it. But we want people to experience it. We want people to see what we're talking about, because it's not like anything you've ever seen before. It's really quite cool. And it's like you said, we believe it's the future of Web3 entertainment and the comic books. I mean, I don't think it's replacing paper comic books. There's nothing like holding paper comics. People love it.
It's an alternative. It's like digital comics with an incentive.
Yeah, it will be bigger. It'll be a lot bigger than paper comics in the future. Which for paper comic collectors will be fine. They don't care. They just want to make sure that they don't go away permanently, and maybe we'll be able to do both at the same time. So Anyway, thank you so much for having me on. I don't know if anybody has any questions. You want me to answer some questions?
No one is missing any questions because they just love what you're hearing. A lot of them, again, are NFT fans. A lot of them are comic book fans. But I definitely want to say thank you for your time. Thank you for being a pioneer as a comic book fan to a creator. Thank you. And the technology fans, like, thank you for doing that mix, and being brave and bold enough to put that vision out there and sharing it with the world. I know it's going to be a hit. It just takes time because that's what, it's again, MP3s took time, right? And all that good stuff, and everything takes time. But once it hits, it's going to hit like a mother. And I think that the way you're thinking about it, way different than anyone I've spoken to before. So I'm digging it, brother. You are, in fact, a real visionary. So blessed on this journey. I can't wait to see where you go. You are always welcome back to talk more about the greatness of what you're doing. And folks, I've been sharing this throughout, but please follow homie everywhere. He locked it down. LightningWorks 7. That's the number 7. All right. LightningWorks 7 all over the socials. And of course, please visit the website that he's talking about. I mean, you can check out everything that's popping off at lightningworks.io. You heard? Represent. Show love to indie, digi, tech. This is the future. Thank you, Geoff, so much. Appreciate your time. Shout out to Leslie, too, for putting this together and hooking it up. Much love. And everybody else that's been tuning in and see, what's that right there? Let's go. Millennium Sound from Dennis. Weepa, let's make it happen, baby. Woo! All right. Thanks, Geoff. You rock. Everybody, you know what it is. Check out everything Comic Crusaders, Undercover Capes. Check out my other podcast, the AMP, the Omega Podcast, where I talk to other entrepreneurs as well. It's all goodness, but it's the greatness. You know what it is? Hasta la próxima, mi gente. Later.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Comic Crusaders Podcast. If you like the content, please subscribe and turn on notifications. Also, please visit comiccrusaders.shop and our extended podcast family over at undercovercapes.com. And also, make sure to download the Comic Crusaders app on the Google Play Store today.